Alright, greetings and salutations, team. It is a pleasure to see you again. It is Later Bye Guy, Choco D, whatever you would like to call me. I am currently setting up for the next stream. We have our people lined up for the night. So let me go ahead and find the individuals in question. Just opening up the stream on my YouTube feed as well, so that I can keep track of comments and views and make sure that the stream's health is doing pretty okay. I forgot to add something to the stream, so let's just close YouTube Studio real quick. But that's fine. Actually, let me see how this sounds. Okay, mic quality is a little bit lower, I think, or at least it's not the really good studio microphone that I usually have. But hello. Everything is set up. All right, let me go ahead and just open the, what's it called? Let me go ahead and open the rounds that I have set up, pre-planned for the evening. Let's see, we need Cap, Pyrrha, and Prometheus. Looking for Toffee, Tony, Corn, and Citron. I actually started pre-reading that one. Pyrrha Harry, there we are. Open like a new tab. Hello, Pyrrha. I will be reading yours first. Hello and welcome. We have Cap. Alright, we have that. And we also have, where is Prometheus? Alright. I've already pre-read yours a little bit, but gonna get situated and relaxed. Feeling good about ourselves this evening. Did you have any preferences as to the character voices or anything like that? What are you uhing? What is the The Actually, let me go over your characters real quick so I can learn a little bit more about them. Corin. Why are you nervous? You don't gotta be nervous. Okay, Corin is a shy woman. She may even appear cold and aloof. I'm just getting a brief character summary too. I see. Oop. But anyway, I am hanging on. Let me go ahead and check out Tony's while I'm at it. Name's Tony. What's it to you? Ooh, I like Tony. I like his design. Okay, so what part did you need repeated? I'm not sure where I am at this moment in time. For the most part, welcome back. I am going to be reading your audition. I was wondering if you had any voice claims or preferences, but that's about all I've talked about. I'm just looking over the the profiles of the characters that I will be voicing at this moment in time until some more people jump in. I have been tagged in the voice PC. Ah, yeah. I need to figure out how to get like a chat overlay through OBS. I'm pretty bad at using just regular OBS. I should be able to just like add an extra thing on it. But yeah, before I get started, just curious about any of that. The hello, Pyrrha. I see you in the chat. I am the anonymous chinchilla. Jeannie Tirado. Don't know who that is. Time to do a little research. Open new window so I don't do that business. Might hear some noise coming out soon. As soon as this. You know what? I'm going to look it up on my phone. That way I don't take up too much of this shitty computer's bandwidth. Okay, I am back with the necessary research done. I don't expect how well I'm going to do with this one, but we're going to roll with this live. So, starting now. Oh, we are in OC voice claims. Look at that.
Oh, I suppose this outfit makes me stand out. It is more ornate than I am used to.
Okay, I can get a vibe with that. I will do my best. The Eon of Time. Kronos' Crossroads of Fate. Prologue. Of Past Memories and Phantasmic Futures. Abridged edition. Cool was the breeze that blew the dewy dawn within the deepest, darkest reaches of the alpine forest, carrying the mouldering scent of the dry, dead winter's grasp away, and spreading the airs of small yet sweet budding blossoms and boughs of early spring. If one didn't look east, one would be forgiven for thinking it was the early dawn, swishing through trees that. 1 second. Dog was begging for, or was wanting some attention. Where was I? Cool was the breeze that blew that dewy dawn within the deepest, darkest reaches of the alpine forest. Okay, he needs out. Sorry, 1 second. Hello, test. Is the microphone still working properly? I might have soaked it in a little bit of water. Eh. Okay, it's still working. Okay, hello, I am returned. Sorry, was a whole mess that occurred. So we're back. I'm just going to start from the beginning because it has been a mess since I started. Cool was the breeze that blew the dewy dawn within the deepest, darkest reaches of the alpine forest, carrying the mouldering scent of the dry, dead winter's grasp away and spreading the airs of small yet sweet budding blossoms and boughs of early spring. If one didn't look east, one would be forgiven for thinking it was the early dawn, swishing through the trees, through just faintly, perhaps ghost-like. Swishing through the trees, though just faintly, perhaps ghost-like, a musky, sweaty scent drifted amongst the wisps of spring herself. Birds, bugs, and other creatures began their songs as the earth awoken peacefully from its slumber, only to be cut down by an agonized, panicked shriek, followed by a strained, choked cry of a lone lupine. The air froze in place, as did the animals, as death's icy hand came through again, hiding from the huntsman that brought back winter's eerie silence. Another cry, a furious baying howl, shattered the glassy, chilly air with clumping and rumbling of pursuing padded feet and gilded hooves of steel. As a brittle sleet crunched underfoot with each stride of his hooves, several more clawed feet scraped and crushed the slush beneath them as they nipped and snapped their jaws at the shadowy, inky legs of her mount. They huffed and snarled as the darkly mount snorted with furious, determined gasps. The wolves howled, crying out for their fellow predators as they found their next meal. Overwhelmed by the tantalizing smell of horse and human sweat, a bloodied jaw drew close, frenzied by mindless hunger as the lean meat of horse haunches pulled ever closer and closer and close. Ha! Ha! Whoosh! Ahoo! Flashing in the pre-dawn light, ghostly silvery steel slashed open the then thrust it down into the beast's neck, pinning it for the briefest of seconds to the ground like a bloody pincushion before a wet schlock. As the pole-arm released the wolf's body from its maw, sending it tumbling and rolling into the pack behind, tripping the other pursuing wolves. A shiver of incredulity and triumphant glee ran up the horse's spine before he whinnied loudly, as the remaining wolves growled and panted after them, fueled by unearthly rage. The rider shouted with him, briefly raising her lance to the moon-setting wan and the glowing east, before studying the dimly lit shapes and colors ahead of her. In a flash, a tall oak on her right with an orange ribbon blew past before a scraggly pine drew close with the shadow of a bell-like thing swaying on a branch. Beyond that, light in the tunnel. Her eyes flashed brightly in the branch and limb tunnel, grinning faintly as the pine began whipping past and a pale hand snatched a tall shako from the murky night. The wolf's fangs grew closer, as she and he did to the clearing, jumping clear over brambles, and the pack ripped through them. Bursting into a bluegrass meadow, the pale rider's hooded cloak remained open, revealing the blazing scarlet and brilliant royal blue double-breasted tunic, snow-white hair flowing in the morning breeze. Corin couched her lance under her arm and drove it down to the neck of an unsuspecting wolf scout, as Citron landed on top of the rest of the awaiting scouts, crushing them beneath his hooves. In the morning light, the rider's face shone with sweat, exhausted from the chase. They started circling the meadow as the remaining 6 wolves burst out of their thorny blockade, bodies scratched into thin, bloody ribbons. The rider and her horse slow to a panting rest, their backs against the stony ledge of a hill that wrapped around the meadow's basin as the now bloodied pack began surrounding them, catching their own breath as they slowly closed in, wounded but very angry and very hungry. Most wolves would have given up as they lost half of their pack, their own family, or fled the moment that they heard shouts, screaming, or roar of flames cast or the scent of either beast folk or human pups and their parents. But never once had this thought nor impulse ran through them. seemingly desensitized, or rather blocked, commanded, puppeteered by something worse. Or rather blocked, commanded, and puppeteered by something worse. Emerald eyes met sickly yellow, and at once her suspicions had been proven right, as a disturbing chill set in. Magic. A curse. At once the wolves' eyes nearly went bloodshot, and all charged the pair. As they did, their skin began bulging and their snouts more elongated. With every stride the wolves made, the sickening sound of cracking bones and ripping skin reverberated in the rider's ears. Her breath froze in her throat as flashes of boys, men and horses crying out as boulders and beasts fell upon them. She couldn't move. All she could see was the darkened, narrow road, and hear nothing but the anguished and horrified screaming of men. "Asrathoir Krasin, Isiad na Drauthe! They're above us!" a woman cried out in the present. The rider's hands gripped the lance, and reins knuckled white as the galloping wolves' growling became loud and roaring as the cursed wolves quadrupled in size. Towering over her and the horse, as if suddenly inflated by grotesque force, quadrupled in size, towering over her and the horse. As if suddenly inflated by a grotesque force, the wolves' muscles ripped their own skin open, expanding to reveal rippling, bloody masses beneath. The dark horse whinnied, circling against the wall, crying out again and again as if to snap his rider out of her memories. Quick water break. The rider saw the remaining people. Lancers and hussars hack, slash, and stabbed the vampiric werebeasts, desperate to save their trapped comrades as fallen horses and men alike were torn apart, limb from limb, bone by bone, sinew snapping after sinew. The rider, dressed in the same scarlet royal blue and tunic as these Ulhuns, rode alongside the fallen hussars and lancers, lunging and skewering any werebat that flung itself at her wounded and trapped comrades, buying them time to pull themselves free or have one of her other comrades rescue them. "Regroup! Regroup on me and retreat! Regroup on me and retreat, Littlefield! Retreat to Littlefield!" A dark young man dressed in a red and blue tunic shouted. Other lancers dressed in the same uniform struggled alongside, green and yellow hussars to the center of the narrow cliff-top road. "Aim for the heart! Aim for the heart and wings!" the lancer yelled over the cacophony. Her and the young man rode around in a circle, striking down monsters around them as cavalrymen pulled comrade after comrade free from beneath their fallen mounts and towards their circle. 5 werebats fell to the earth as the hussars and lancers slashed their wings and trampled them underfoot as their bodies dissipated into bloody, bare-naked men. A large, dark gray werebat hissed over the others and circled away from the fight, with the others following suit. The young man clutched a small thing wrapped in cloth close to him as the werebats began flying off. This doesn't bode well. The rider, now lancer, thought. Suddenly a bearded hussar, out of breath, galloped up to the pair. "Captain! Lieutenant! The 36th Grenadiers and the 10th Cuirassiers are on their way. However, werewolves have been spotted in the north." Ah! The bearded hussar and his gray horse flew hundreds of feet further up the road. A large boulder that had flung across the sky drove them to the ground like a railway spike, killing the horse and pinning the bearded hussar beneath the crushed horse. A bloody gash earned from his fall drenched his struggling face as he tried to pull himself free. "Eric!" the lancer shouted, steering her horse back towards the hussar. "Lieutenant Morgan!" the young captain shouted. "I'll get Eric! Keep those werebats off of us! Bogdan!" Several loud whistling pierced the foggy night as several werebats dive-bombed the squadron, whilst others heaved boulders and crudely carved branches as the men opened fire. The lancer dodged stone and wooden missiles before a loud whoosh flooded her ears, followed by flapping that drowned out the bloody melee and the towering outline of a werebat descended from the moonlit night. The bearded hussar yelped as the giant werebat landed on top of his fallen mount, crushing him further. It hissed eagerly, seeing its prey was still alive, and began reaching down towards the hussar. "No! Get off him, you bastard!" the lancer shouted, grabbing her and firing her revolver 2 times. Click, click, click. Empty. She fired at it, but it didn't even flinch. Shrugging her right shoulder, she dropped her lance into her hand, lowering it level with the monster as she continued to run through the chaotic melee. He was too far away. He was too far. The werebat bit down and pulled him up by the cloth of his tunic collar as Eric bellowed in pain, furious defiance, punching the werebat's snout with his free hand. She shut her eyes and felt her heart grasping the weave. She could feel it running through her heart, then coughed violently and felt very lightheaded. Damn this power! Give me time! Just give me more time! Opening her eyes, the lancer threw her lance at the beast, burying it in its chest. It growled in agony, mouth still gripping onto the pinned hussar's collar. The monster heaved and shivered as it wheezed out pathetic, panicked, wet gasps before looking up at the lancer, dark red eyes meeting emerald. It smirked. It bloody smirked at her. The werebat's fangs flashed at her before biting down on the hussar. "Ah! Eric!" she shouted. Eric screamed out as the werebat went in for another bite. "Corin! Save the squad! Eric's body went limp as the werebat crushed the life out of his neck. The werebat weakly and seemingly hissed triumphantly, mocking her one last time before it too dropped dead in an instant. The werebat transformed from hulking monster back down into small naked man, the so-called warlock, impaled by her lance. No. Eric, A familiar shriek pierced the night, snapping the lancer's head in its direction. A small red-headed girl, head poking out of her cloak, clung to the Captain Bogdan as he evaded werebats and now werewolves leaping out of the shadows. Her heart twinged painfully. Dear God in heaven! The lancer turned her horse and rode after them. Henry! The captain roared as he lunged his lance at a swiping werewolf, earning a pained yelp as it dropped dead. Corey, save us! The little girl wailed, as if fate cruelly decided to pull the sickest joke. A werebat shot out from the dark pines above them. Both the captain and the little girl were tackled to the ground, arms and chest pinned beneath it. The little girl cried out in horror as the werebat opened its jaws wide and began moving down towards the child, growling eagerly. The captain roared back, shifting his torso frantically to cover the girl. No, not Emily and Henry, you son of a bitch! The lancer, in the blink of an eye, drew her saber as it ignited, her heart twinging painfully, worse than ever before, grasping time itself within its tight-fisted grasp. Her eyes began to glow as she closed them, before a simultaneous ticking of a clock and heartbeat grew loudly. The peal of a bell flooded her senses as the world began falling silent and slower. Her heart and hand reached forward, searing blade roaring loudly as she slashed at the wereback's neck. Hey, Kirby. The air, the sounds, everything had all fallen silent with nothing but the sound of Citron's hoofbeats, an omnipresent ticking sound and heartbeat filling the empty void. Opening her eyes, Corin found herself back in the meadow and swung at her flaming saber at the cursed wolf's throat. It made contact, flesh and spirit hissing as it began to drive itself through the neck. An eerily unearthly scream reverberated in the motionless world as she galloped past it until it fell silent as the blade fully cleaved in twain the wolf's neck. Then the ticking and heartbeat quickened as she ran round, past the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, cleaving away their heads effortlessly as small wisps of smoke, scrambling blood, and tongues of plasma trailed, then froze in position behind the blade's path. Corin closed her eyes again as the loud peal of a great bell rang out again, and she felt her heart release its grasp of the weave. The ticking heartbeat instantly faded away as the sound and motion grew louder and faster and faster. The air was filled with the rasping of steel and the roar of flames as Corin opened her eyes again, her eyes glow fading quickly. The cursed wolves fell to the ground, heads and bodies quickly engulfed in white-hot fire as the saber's own fire dimmed and dissipated back into its steel. Corin and Citron slowed down and stopped before the entrance to the meadow, picking up the dropped lance and turning to look over their work. They panted deep breaths as the fires quickly consumed the wolf's body and... Ooh, burp, sorry. They panted deep breaths as the fires quickly consumed the wolves' bodies, and just as quickly extinguished itself with nothing left but a puff of soot, flying up to the quickly rising sun on a serene breeze. Slowly, Corin sheathed her saber, took her shako off her head, placed it over her heart, and watched as the dust flew by above the tops of the trees and disappeared. Bowing her head, she said the solemn prayer before replacing the shako atop her head. "May you all rest peacefully," she whispered. Contemplating for a little while longer, her eyes widened a little. "Hey, sit." She reached down over to the horse's neck, rubbing him down investigatively. He felt tense before he slightly withdrew his neck forward. "Oh no, sit. Oh no, sit." Corin dismounted and walked over to his front, gently touching his upper neck and then his muzzle. "Citron, I'm sorry, boy. I didn't mean to scare you like that. I'm sorry for you leaving you like that." He huffed and looked away. "Shh, it's okay, Sit. It's okay. You're fine now. We're fine now." At first, he let go of his tension as the petting and rubbing down of his neck soothed him into contemplative ease. She smiled, and he let out a small whinny, letting her scratch his chin before she began rubbing it. Little off track today. She smiled as he let out a small whinny, letting her scratch his chin before she began rubbing down his neck. Then he turned to her, eyeing her up and down worriedly. At first, Corin wondered why he gave her such a strange look. Was she wounded? Did she have bugs in her teeth or hair again from all that riding? Her eyes widened again, and gently she cupped his face, looking at him in the eyes. "Sit, I can't control when those memories happen, but hey, trust me, it won't happen again. I promise, okay, boy?" Corin felt and knew somewhere deep within it wasn't possible to keep this to him. It wasn't so easy to forget, to not remember those faces, those people, those memories. Although it had been nearly 2 years since then, and those things rarely affected her, every single time it felt only like it had been yesterday. No, hours ago. Hang on. 2 years. Henry, Emily, Arthur, Renee, Otto, Labiche, Eric, Mama, Papa. Had it really been that long? Ever since that fateful, foggy spring morning a year or two ago, Corin's life as she knew it changed forever. For nearly 2 years, all she knew was war, fighting for her family and her home, against the armies of the mightiest empires of the world, and then some years more against the wizards and the handful of monsters left in the world, hiding in the shadows, trying once more to gain tangible foothold over humans once again. Then worlds, yes, entire worlds beyond her wildest dreams she was suddenly thrust into, and people she only thought existed in fantasy books she now called friends and even family. Family. Friends. She shivered as the 2 chilling thoughts ran up her spine. Are they even alive? Does home even exist? Her own flesh and blood family. Oh dear God, her family! She felt a rising sense of nausea enveloping her as more terrible thoughts ran through her mind. How much time had passed since then? Has Galia won? Or did either of the empires finally conquer? No, she wouldn't dare even think about that. Not for their sake, especially not for... She sighed deeply, trying her best not to think about them. Henry, her best friend, her captain. She shut her eyes again, trying to focus on other things. First lieutenant of the 9th Lancers and hunter of wizardly monsters, and now adventurer, bounty hunter, monster hunter. She chuckled softly to herself. Monster hunter, eh? I guess some things don't change. Travel across countless worlds, and yet here I am, still doing the exact same thing. I don't know how to make this. Citron raised his head, snorting excitedly. Eh? What is it, Cit? Corin shook herself out of the reverie and towards the forest tunnel. And a fox. Upon a small rock, sitting almost as if it were expecting her, was a snow-white fox with a magenta and gold pattern upon its head and poofy tail. A letter. Corin eyed the magenta and gold pattern upon its head and poofy tail. Oh, wait. I think I messed up something. A fox. Up on a small rock, sitting almost as if it were expecting her, was a snow-white fox with a magenta and gold pattern upon its head and a poofy tail, and a letter. Corin eyed the fox for a moment before looking round. She raised one eyebrow and cocked her head slightly. The white fox did the same. What the dickens? Is this sort of prank? A call trying to reach me for some magical warranty? As if it heard her thoughts, the fox shook its head. Her eyes went wide and mouth dropped agape. What? Jumping down from its perch, it began walking towards her, and she began walking towards it. Hello, little one. Is this for me? It nodded. Oh, dear. Cautiously, she bent down and reached for the letter and studied it. It was a scarlet-red envelope, stamped with a gold wax seal of 9 tails. Fox-tails. Why does that look so familiar? Was that a kitsune? She barely remembered a fox-like creature that had 9 tails, a creature of Japanese folklore. Mr. Kurasami told her about it, though she had forgotten most of the details. Mr. Kurasami. She shook her head of the thought and turned back to the little fox. Is it really mine? She asked the fox again. It nodded before speaking in a playfully feminine voice. Why, yes, it is, Miss Morgan. Or should I say, Lieutenant? Ah! Corin jumped back, shielding her face, nearly crushing the letter in clenched fist as the fox laughed deeply, rolling around on its back, giggling. Scared you, didn't I? Ah, never gets old. It snickered as it climbed to its paws. Sorry for that, but yes, Miss Morgan, the invite is for you. Slowly, Corin lowered her arms from her face. For me? Invitation to what, might I ask? Who are you? Corin pointedly asked the little one. How do I know you? The fox raised its tail, swishing painfully. How do I know you? The fox raised its tail, swishing playfully. Miss Morgan, I've heard about you and your exploits across these worlds, and as for me, I am but a mere messenger for my madam. It bowed its head respectfully upon the word, madam, before looking back up at her. If you care to read the invitation, it'll most certainly answer your questions, Miss Morgan. Raising one eyebrow, Corin turned to the letter and opened it. Dear Corin Anna Rose Morgan, or the Pale Rider, Blue Riding Hood, or... Oh boy. Or Nadezhda Durarova. Nadezhda Durarova. Nadezhda Durarova, or Second Lieutenant Morgan. Let me get this in one take. Dear Corin Anna Rose Morgan, or the Pale Rider, Blue Riding Hood, or Nadezhda Durarova, or Second Lieutenant Morgan, you've been cordially invited to participate in the most extravagant, auspicious, and exhilarating tournament across the known and unknown worlds, the Cross Tournament. Prove your mettle, cunning, or luck against your fellow competitors to win the grandest of all prizes, a wish, any wish that will be granted by the Madam of the Crossroads, the God-Eater herself. If you wish to participate, take the bell and ribbon enclosed in the circle in the letter and say yes to the fox. Room and board will be provided, regardless of competitor status. With all kindest regards and wishing you luck. The Cross Tournament. Bell and ribbon. Corin reached out in the envelope and, much to her surprise, slowly pulled out a red ribbon tied to a bell. She played with the bell for a moment, it jingling and as it danced on her fingers. For several long moments, Corin stared off to that distance, then back at the bell. Could it really be that easy? Was Or rather, is there no catch? When in the past, for several months, she had been trying to find a way back home, but all turned but for nothing. But turned up all but nothing. Nothing but pain and misery, and only going further and further from her home, literally universes apart. She hoped after the second, the third, and fourth last jump, run or teleport to another world, it would have truly been the last until she'd finally ended up in a lonely, dark world. Her search for her home only drove her further from it. Sorry. She shivered violently as the memory of Eperon's bitterly freezing winter blew down her spine, and she felt her stomach ached, stabbed from the phantasmic knives of starvation. By the grace of God, Corin returned back to the world she was first spirited away to, reunited with her found family several months ago. But now, the chance presented itself again to see Galea. No, to save home. She paced back and forth, playing the bell in her hand. Then she reached a hand into her secret tunic pocket and pulled out a golden pocket watch and clicked it open, ticking ever so faithfully to time. The watch displayed a small, worn photo in the lid. She rubbed the photo with her thumb gently, closing her eyes and sighed deeply. Clicking the watch shut, she opened her eyes and turned back to the fox. Yes, I accept the invitation. She tied the ribbon around her neck underneath her tunic's collar. I knew you'd come around, Miss Morgan. And the fox glowed brightly with gold white aura, turning its tail as it ran up the road. Hey, wait! Quickly she mounted Citron, and, without even urging him on, Corin and Citron rode after the fox. Where are you going? She shouted after it, entering the darkness of the forest, the misty fog still hanging in the air. Bloody hell, it's fast! Come on, come on! And Citron poured his strength into every stride as they watched the fox disappear into the fog bank. Oi! Steady on, Foxy! We might lose you! Enveloping them, the fog chilled her thoroughly as the light faded, and all she could see was Citron and then the forest fell silent. All she could hear now was the clopping of hooves in the air whooshing past her ears. Wait! Foxy, wait! A dim light grew up ahead, and the sounds of the forest returned to her as the fog thinned. A road! A road! Indeed, a proper road appeared beneath her, as the fog slowly lifted and they burst into the open air, a meadow. Into the open air of a meadow. Before them, a city perched atop a seaside cliff top and nestled below an imposing lone mountain, its pagoda towers watching over the city in ever watchful vigilance. In the distance, she could see two men dressed in a strange red and black uniform guarding a golden gate with golden kitsune guarding from above. Guardsmen, perhaps. In one tower, a cross-guard spotted the lancer, quickly approaching the southern city gate. Drawing up a pair of binoculars, she spied a white tail trailing behind this nude person under a billowing cloak. The tail of a competitor. Shouting down the other guards, they radioed the other two standing watch over there. The tail of a competitor. Shouting down the other guards, they radioed the two standing watch over the southern gate, and they nodded. Shivering, whether out of excitement or fear, Corin eyed the horizon, with one goal in her mind. Victoria et Gloria. Okay, and that concludes that part of the audition. Greetings and salutations, Pierre. It's good to see you. Let me open up the work VC, sorry. Okay, I really liked that audition. I'm sorry that I butchered some of it. A lot of the names kind of threw me off, and I'm sort of getting back into my vibe of reading. I usually have to have some warm-up. I should find some pre-written stuff to sort of read out loud. Taking a quick water break, getting a little... And no, it wasn't bad at all. I actually really enjoyed a lot of the tension that you built up in the actual audition. Especially, not just the tension, the actual fight that was going on. I appreciated a lot of the desperation. If there are any comments that I might have to make is try to keep character voices to their own separate kind of situation, but that's just a personal preference. I do believe it helps to flow the audition. But a lot of it was I really loved it. I loved a lot of the descriptions that was going on in it. And, God, poor. She is so unfortunate to be wandering around this world. I really liked how the magic was working out in it as well. I got a lot of the feeling that using any magic from her situation was very damaging to her. Or is generally just does not come without big consequences. So in this case, I do believe I'm going to find our not OC voice claims. I need to go to the summoning audition. I will tag Cap in a minute. We'll go ahead and just tag Prometheus. I'll be reading his. Here we are. Now I hope I can go. I do not know how to use this site. Okay, there we go. All right, let me go ahead and tag Prometheus. You're welcome. Sorry if it was unwarranted. I don't want to overstep my bounds with this. I am mostly trying to get my own voice working back. Pyrrha, don't think of it as bad or mediocre at all. Don't ever think of your work like that. You put in a lot of effort into this. You put in a lot of effort to the work. You put a lot of effort into the actual writing. And anytime you actually put anything out is something to be admired. There's a lot of people that probably wanted to join that didn't put in the effort, didn't put in the time, and there's no shame in not being able to do something, but there is a lot of honor to be able to kind of finish a work like this and just putting yourself out there. So, good job. Genuinely. Okay, let me get some water and then I'll start Tony's. Don't spill any water onto the table. I can't afford more spillage. Hello, Curbs. We are in the work voice if you want to join in on this one. Let me go ahead and... I don't see Speedster. He's deafened. But yeah, I like this guy. Alright. Take another sip. I'll start up again at 9:30. This is the first comic we're reading. So, alright, let's do it. Let's make this one quick, folks. Meet the Tony. The name's Tony. Some call me a devil, but I'd hesitate to agree. At least, I ain't the devil you're probably used to. I may be a right son of a bitch, but more accurately, I am an Oni. And when I'm not protecting the treasures of the dead and passing, I'm residing at the bottom of this lake. I take to the underside of it, down to the underworld, resting just below the surface. With a greed, the dragons sink all the way to the bottom. The possessions of those in the living world often find themselves in my vault, and this presents a little bit of a problem. See, every so often I see some bottom-feeding, scum-sucking, grave-robbing lowlife take a dip down into my world, my domain, and they try to make a mock off of me. And it's really starting to piss me off. But all of that was just about to change. I had a little pocket runner attack one day. It went about as well as all the others. But this time, something on the boy piqued my interest. A little white letter that almost seemed to call out to me. It had my name written on it and everything. Well, at least it did after I scratched the other guy's name off of it. And that led me to the above world. Holy shit! Chug, 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 chug. And as it turns out, I was not the only one invited. They even gave me little thingies to welcome me to the event. So whatever happens, happens. I plan on having my fun regardless. Why does my ass feel heavier? The end. For now. I like it. I really like Tony. He's ready to just walk up and smack him around. Ooh, yes. Okay, we do have cameos. I will probably be recognized. I recognize. Yes, there's Kirby's. I haven't had a chance to read yours, Curbs, but I am looking forward to it. And I feel like his name is Dave, the crash test individual. I love his design. Oh my god. Hello.
Also, hi.
Hey, Cap.
I love Dave.
Don't worry, people get surprised by me all the time.
Startled. Well, good for you to join us. We're actually about to start on yours now. This was a nice, short and sweet audition, though. I really liked it. It was just, hey, square up. I'm here to fucking fight you. I love it. I love the vibe that Tony gives out. So, working on this one. Here we are. Let me give it a second. Did you want to do any reading of your audition, Cap?
No, I don't know, man. I'm jittery. I stutter when I read out loud.
There's no shame in not wanting to or feeling pressure on it.
Yeah.
If you want to join it at any point, feel free to just give me a wave down. I am more than happy and willing to let you hop in for some of the fun.
Yeah. Also, can I ask if you've seen my character's ref sheet?
I took a quick look at it, but I didn't go through the whole details. Let me go ahead and find it again.
You don't need to. I just need to know if you saw my character's character design. Just because I did not do a good enough job at describing what my character looked like, and one of the people who read it thought they were like just a regular teenage girl, which then gets very, very awkward for a multitude of reasons.
So, I get you. But nah, I already had an idea as to who Toffee Brown was. I believe we talked about her earlier.
Yeah.
I'm just reading her personality right now to kind of get a vibe as to what kind of voice I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm very sorry if it's a lot of it's vague. This is a very shitposty character, and a lot of the aspects of their character are just improv. So my biggest recommendation is just do whatever is funniest. Just give them a Boston accent or whatever would be funnier.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
Exactly.
So, likes jazz. Can appreciate that. Murder mystery shows. All right. Carrot-related stereotypes. Can also appreciate that. All right. Gonna go ahead and get this started. Chapter 1. Prologue. There in the center plaza, you may have seen once or twice before, on a gray autumn day, stood an otherworldly fox. Right across from it, behind the glass of a cafe shop window, sat a woman, staring at the animal. She pondered it in a way many would have reacted to seeing such a creature. Is this first character, Toffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I do the kind of shtick where it's like, oh, character shows up, but I don't name who it is because I want to be a cheeky narrator. But yeah, that's...
No, I understand. That's pretty common. I just haven't had a chance to read through this first, so want to make sure I get the voices right. Well, that's not a fox, she thought, sipping her afternoon cup. It couldn't be. A real wild fox would never sit so still with that envelope. No, I'm not feeling that. It couldn't be. A real wild fox would never sit so still with that envelope in its mouth. A real fox would never sit still enough to put makeup on it. Yes, makeup. That's what those red markings all over it must be. A picture was forming in her mind. It's probably one of those genetically modified foxes you hear about online, made to be more obedient, or maybe even a dog bred to look like a fox, and the envelope it's holding onto is part of some sort of promotional stunt. Maybe for a restaurant. Or maybe there's a coupon inside. As at that point, in a moment of sonder, the woman began to take notice of all the people passing by the animal, all walking off in their own directions to go about their own business, refusing to spare the slightest glance at the beast before them, let alone call animal control. The woman realized that her personal train of thought was more like a public subway. All of the adults in that scene lived with an inner child on life support, brutally beaten down by a society that only had tolerance for two things: cold cynicism and what little could be rationalized by high school level physics. All of them made the same assumptions about the fox, all of them stupendously wrong, lacking the childlike imagination necessary to perceive the truth. The woman got out of her chair, propelled by a strong desire to distinguish herself amongst the other adults with hearts too cold to donate a moment of their precious time to greet the fox. First was the chime of the coffee shop door, next the underwhelming crunch of soggy fall leaves, and then a few more paces after that before the woman and the fox were standing in front of each other, eyes locked and unblinking, swelled with curiosity as the two drank in every detail of the image before them. She knelt down, eye level to him, and cautiously motioned her hand, not towards the envelope, but behind his ear, giving it a nice scratch while he graciously accepted. She rolled her eyes, now even more convinced that her theory was dead on, then shot a quick glance behind her to see if there were any hidden cameras before returning her attention to the letter. The fox put up no resistance, letting go of the red envelope once it was firmly in the woman's grasp. She stood back up. "Aren't you a well-mannered little guy?" she chuckled. "I'm starting to lean more to dog. You're way too patient to be a fox." She did realize she was about to be caught up in a game. Little did she realize she was about to be caught up in a game concocted by the most patient fox who ever lived. Opening the ornate wax seal on the letter was a telling sign that something was off. Instead of the free boba tea voucher she had confidently visualized in her head, it was an invitation. "Have you ever wished to prove yourself?" it read. "Have you ever wished to see all that reality has to offer? Have you ever wished for anything at all? If you're reading this, you are not simply lucky, but blessed by fate. A being of supreme grace and undeniable omnipotence, she is known only as the God-Eater, invites you to show your strength and resolve. Face challengers from other worlds, timelines, and even dimensions to earn the favor of the God-Eater in the legendary Cross Tournament. Become the champion, and you shall be rewarded whatever you could possibly wish for. All you need to do is accept this invitation." The woman grinned as her mouth would allow. The woman grinned as wide as her mouth would allow. Never in her life did she ever come across what, as far as she was concerned, was the most out-of-nowhere joke she read, and it was a joke she felt in the mood to oblige. Toffee raised the letter in the air, as if to brag to any bystanders that her inner child was still alive and well. With the cartoonish bellow of a medieval knight, she cheered, "I accept!" That's when all her assumptions and normalcy began to crumble, and it all started when she realized that her hand held in the air felt heavier than it did only a moment ago. She lowered it to see with widened eyes that the weightless piece of paper she was holding had been replaced with a red and gold Magatama necklace. What? That was the only sound that escaped her mouth before a sudden flash, and all turned black. Quick sip of water. Everything was gone. The fox, the plaza, and every bystander that had existed as fleeting blurs in the corner of Toffee's eyes. Did they all disappear, or was it she who was wiped from existence? Was this death? No, she could still feel her arms, legs, and Magatama she held in a locked grip. There was no time to ponder the question further, as the darkness disappeared as quickly as it had swallowed everything, revealing an entirely new world. For a moment it felt like there were only two colors in all of existence. A clean sapphire... Mouse. There we go. Technical difficulties. For a moment, it felt like there were only two colors in all of existence, a clean sapphire sky and infinitely spanning emerald plain of grass, separated by a horizon crafted out of distant blurs that looked to be mountains. The breeze against her skin was proof this was not a dream, if only because she knew her imagination was not powerful enough to simulate such a sensation. A proper adult would have left that fox alone. A proper adult would have left that letter alone. Even in the most unlikely scenario where a proper adult opened that letter, they surely would have thrown it in the trash without a second thought. What did this girl in her mid-20s prove by going against all that? Maybe it wasn't about proving anything to all these Maybe it wasn't about proving anything to all those bystanders she disappeared right in front of. Perhaps she truly was seduced by the promises of this so-called cross-tournament. Toffee closed her eye and began to meditate. It didn't matter why she was here or how she got here. All her focus was directed towards adjusting herself to the situation. Magic, a concept that actively spat in the face of her precious high school level physics understanding of the world, or in this case, now worlds, plural, was real. The moment she started walking in a given direction, she would eventually wander into something supernatural, just like that makeup-coated fox. And when that happened, she would not cry, scream, or panic. She would act with the utmost composure. This is the promise she made to herself. Toffee stood there for what felt like, and very well could have been, hours, imagining every possible, beautiful, and horrifying thing she could encounter with neither excitement nor horror. Can I ask how long you're going to be standing there? Your legs must be tired by now. The one such voice broke the silence behind her. I am not turning around until you answer my questions. I am not turning around until you answer my questions, Toffee replied in a low monotone. She desperately tried to force a serene facade, but the failed attempt sounded more robotic. Aw, come on. Don't tell me you think I'm some sort of monster. What's going to happen if you turn around? Am I going to steal your face? I may have seen a TV show where something like that happens, but that's beside the point. First question, are you part of the cross-tournament? What, you mean my mom's little get-together? I was actually participating. If I was actually participating, you'd be better off forfeiting. I doubt a fight against me could be considered fair. Your mom? I'm guessing you're referring to the God Eater, right? Are you her son? Fearing that showing too much surprise might be seen as a sign of weakness, Toffee's voice remained dry but slightly raised. Yep. Tenki, the enigmatic Gale at your service. How many questions do we have to go through before you turn around? Just looking at you like this gives me such an awful crick in my neck. He rolled his head. Just one more. Toffee took in a deep breath before asking the question she feared the most. Do I get to go home after all this? There was a slight pause before a roaring laugh. Of course. That's the question that has you so on edge. You can leave whenever you please. You have the means to do so right there. Toffee looked around her inventory for a split second before realizing there was only one thing he could possibly be referring to. You mean this? She lifted the Magatama still in her death grip to her side. Tenki nodded. Yep. That necklace is your tag. It's what we use to keep track of the contestants. Just throw it aside and say the magic words, I'm a little quitting coward, and you'll be sent home with all the same amount of ease that brought you here. Coincidentally, if you're having second thoughts, and it really sounds like you are, that is exactly what you should do. Wasting time like this helps neither of us, wouldn't you agree? Toffee's shoulders lowered. She had the answer she wanted to hear. This wasn't a prison, just a much-needed vacation. Things will go back to normal the moment it's too much for her, right? All she had to do was go with the flow. What was the harm? I might have disconnected. Hello, am I alive still? Oh, the stream's still running. Okay, OBS was yelling at me for whatever reason.
It's just lagging behind slightly, it seems.
It's always going to be lagging. Okay, let's see. Toffee's shoulders lowered. She had all she wanted to hear. This wasn't a prison, just a much-needed vacation. Things will go back to normal the moment it's too much for her, right? All she had to do was go with the flow. What was the harm? No, I don't think you have to worry about me quitting just yet. It's like the invitation said. I'm just lucky I'm blessed. Let's give it a go, Mr. Whoa, Scaly Tits! She turned around a little too quickly. In all fairness, flustered was not one of the reactions she promised herself to avoid. Oh, come on, that's the first thing you noticed after all this? He pouted. Look, I'm sorry, you're relatively handsome for a dragon guy, a real solid 8 out of 10, but could you please put on a shirt? Wow, I'm the first dragon guy you've probably met in your life, and all I get is an 8? I'm just providing people with a nice view, same as you were while your back was turned this entire conversation. Toffee took note of her attire before grimacing. Whatever, Scaly Tits. Tenki chuckled with the sliver of bitter sarcasm sprinkled in. You're lucky that I'm obligated to explain the rules of the tournament to you. So while I'm stuck with you, why don't you make yourself more useful and help me out? Toffee watched as he casually drew a circle in midair with his finger. At first you could only see the edge of it, which looked like a blur. Then the inside of the circle took form. It looked like a window in a separate room in a building far away. This circle was a rift in space. It was the sort of magical phenomenon she had been mentally prepared to encounter. Yet it shook her all the same. It took every neuron in her brain to force herself to pretend this was normal, and while her mind was at war with itself, her body returned to the uncomfortable stiffness from before. She saw his hand reach into the dimly lit room and grab a quaint little brown stack that jingled slightly when picked up. Tenki tossed it over to her. She almost forgot to react, but was able to catch it in her free hand at the last moment. That's your allowance for your stay during the tournament, Tenki explained. Enough for food, lodging, and whatever pretty little souvenirs you'd like within reason. I can leave you to find your way to town on your own, or you can use that pouch to buy me a drink. I need something to loosen myself up. Toffee snapped out of her confusion. It was as if the bitter frustration of Tenki's tone outweighed the shock of the magic she just witnessed. Well, golly gee, I've been here for let's say, 5 minutes, and I'm already getting extorted. Tell me, smartass, why bother handing me money just to make me buy you things with it, when you could just stolen the money in the first place? And where would I put the coins? In your pockets. Well, I don't have pockets. Why the hell don't you have pockets? Bah, if you're asking me a question like that, you clearly don't understand the virtues of living light, Tenki chuckled. Either way, the bar will close if we waste any more time like this, so try to keep up. He turned around and bolted into a sudden sprint, or at least that's how it looked at first. Hey! Toffee hastily shoved the coin pouch into her coat pocket and placed the Magatama necklace around her neck before giving chase. Something was off, however. In a single step, she had covered half the gap between herself and the sprinting Tenki. It seemed as if every step she took, he traveled 5 steps in distance. Every step she took traveled 5 steps in distance. Tenki wasn't running at all, and neither was Toffee at this point. At first she thought that the space around her was being warped somehow, but then she looked up at the sky and realized that the movement of the clouds was speeding up as she walked. It wasn't space, it was time. All she could do was move forward 1 foot in front of the other until she almost entirely caught up with Tenki. After moving a distance that, no doubt, had to have been miles, she finally saw the massive city that served as the God Eater's domain. Crossroads. It was as if the city itself was eager to flaunt its magnificence, a trait inherited from its progenitor. Toffee was met by a vibrant red bridge, arched over a rushing current, that directed her towards an imposing white gate with a statue of a ferocious tiger at the top. After her already disorienting stroll, she had gotten so dizzy staring up at the beast she almost forgot about the walls flanking it. They were so perfectly pristine. It was as if they dared you to see if they could ever scratch them. You're welcome, by the way. Tenki rolled his eyes at Toffee, uninterested at the architecture he had seen thousands of times over already. That grassy plain we were standing in is what the locals call the shifting meadow. And as far as the tournament is concerned, it's a metaphorical kill zone. Toffee shook her head back into focus before raising an eyebrow. All right, I'll bite. What do you mean by that? Well, you see, time stretches and contorts itself at random while you're in there, making travel last anywhere between a few seconds and an entire month. Something that can be quite problematic when dealing with a tournament that lasts only 3 days. If it wasn't for my power to guide you, if it wasn't for my power to guide you through there, you could have been stuck there for days, only reaching here in time to find out you were disqualified long ago. Maybe there is some truth to that cocky one-liner you said about being blessed. This could have been a lie to garner some of Toffee's praise, but after what she saw, she felt obligated to believe him. And now, Tenki continued, this way to the Fox's Den. He crossed the bridge, this time at a far more sensible pace. The rest of the trip wasn't as traumatizing. Entering the city, the streets were filled with people going about their business. Finally, Toffee felt genuinely at ease. She was an alien in an even more alien world, and yet that's not how anyone seemed to react. Street vendors and traders passed around coins in exchange for various odds and ends. Cycle rickshaws carried passengers from one side of the city to the other, and absolutely nothing skipped a beat despite the presence of a new tournament contestant. It seemed that these denizens of the crossroads were used to travelers from other worlds. That made sense, assuming these tournaments were a common occurrence. After a rather conveniently short trip, Toffee and Tenki made it to the Fox Den. Toffee followed Tenki in as he brazenly swung open the door, only to be met with a cold welcome. It was an awkward afternoon period after lunch and before the after-work rush, so there was only 2 sets of eyes. One of them belonged to a bright pillar of neon pink. The girl looked to be a pop star. Compared to everyone and everything that Toffee had seen, this girl seemed to be the most tame, or, at the very least, that would have been the case if she wasn't transparent. The other was the bartender, a juxtaposed Oni tapestry of beastly muscles and refined demeanor. Toffee's face went as pale as ghost as the 2 stared daggers in her direction, until she realized it wasn't her that they were looking at. Hey there, you two, Tenki called out. Now, Toffee, the see-through girl next to the bar is my sister, X. She's a spirit, so don't let the whole intangibility business bother you. As for the Amazonian tending the bar, that's Saki. Well, hey there, like Tenki said. My name is... hey there. Like Tenki said, my name is Toffee, and I'm here to compete in the God Eaters tournament. Toffee waved in a rather formal and straightforward manner. By this point, being teleported to a new world and watching a draconic man use an unheard power to bend the fabric of space and time, Toffee had come to terms with the supernatural reality she was currently experiencing, and was now willing to accept that she was initiating a conversation with a hologram and a yokai without questioning it. Miss X adjusted her immaterial clothes and put on the most energetic expression she could as she shifted her attention. Greetings, Toffee, she cheered. I am the fabulous Miss X, the hottest idol in all the crossroads and the master of ceremonies for the God Eaters Cross Tournament. Thank you so much for participating, and please let me know any questions you may have. Saki waved back. Hello there, miss. Her greeting was dry, a tired voice you would have expected from someone who's already greeted multiple people before. It made sense given how many people must have been around earlier, and even more so assuming she has already met multiple contestants before. Toffee didn't take any offense after thinking it over. Well, now, come on, Toffee, Tenki nudged with a grin. Do you have any funny nicknames you want to give these two? What? Oh, no. Toffee sprung to life. You see, a good nickname isn't something you can force out at will. It's something you gotta come up with in the heat of the moment. Regardless, I doubt there's any names for these fine ladies that I could come up with that would match Scaly Tits. Am I right, Scaly Tits? The only thing worse than having a bad nickname was being the only one with a bad nickname. Tenki was desperately hoping to soften the blow of his curse by egging on Toffee to come up with something like Big Red or Ghost Girl, but unfortunately, Toffee read him like a book and denied him any satisfaction. Scaly Tits! Miss X tried to contain herself and keep her juvenile laughter from boiling over into undignified snorting. Saki, on the other hand, was much more mature, only curling the corner of her lips ever so slightly. Toffee watched as Tenki's pure white cheeks turned red with a smidge of embarrassment. It dawned on her that the being she was standing next to was a powerful entity who could most likely kill her with a single thought. But in this single fleeting moment, she was able to score a small victory. It would probably be for the best not to push him any further, but there was a nice sense of comfort as Toffee was hitting her stride. She chuckled before strolling over to the bar with a new sense of confidence. All right, Tenki, time to hold up my end of our bargain. Hey, Saki, I'll have one old-fashioned for myself and whatever Tenki usual drink of choice is. She tilted her head with her eyes closed, trying to simulate a wink as best she could with only one eye. Saki swiftly turned around and grabbed the necessary ingredients within a few seconds. Saki swiftly turned around and grabbed the necessary ingredients. Within a few seconds, and even fewer fluid motions, they were poured into the shaker, sloshed together, and poured back out. The end result was a cocktail full of pleasant orange drink that gave off a delightful glow as the afternoon light passed through it, and a much less impressive cylinder glass of almost nothing. One old-fashioned on the house for the girl who looks like she's had a rough day so far, and one glass of water, no ice, for the little shit who has spent the entire day trying to clear out my top shelf. The entire day? Toffee's ears twitched. Have you been pulling this trick with other people too, trying to get everyone to pay for your booze? What on earth would make you jump to a conclusion like that? Tanky stuttered. You already admitted that you don't go carrying around your own money, and it sure didn't sound like Saki has been giving you freebies this whole time. Toffee motioned her hand towards the cup of water, just about to splash it in Tenki's face, when everything was suddenly interrupted by a sudden scream. Right on cue, Tenki murmured under his breath. Help! Somebody! It sounded like an old woman from outside. Toffee didn't hesitate as she bolted out the door to the sight of a thief with her face concealed by rags, prying a lady's bag out of her hand. There was a split moment where Toffee and the thief locked eyes with each other before the thief tore the bag free from the old lady's grip and bolted off towards the residential district. Toffee gave chase. The busy crowd of the city grew smaller and further away, eventually replaced with narrow roads, houses flanking on each side. The two ran as fast as their legs could carry them. The thief would try to lose Toffee at every corner he turned, but no matter how many times he turned, she was always behind him, closing the distance. He started to get desperate, grabbing whatever random boxes and rocks he could find, and throwing them behind her. He started to get desperate, grabbing whatever random boxes and rocks he could find and throwing behind him in her path. But all it managed to do was lose him even more ground as she dodged the debris, maintaining her focus on him. How in the hell are you so fast? The thief eventually cried out, spluttering out words as he began to run low on oxygen. I was second place on the high school girls' track team, Toffee boasted. Second place? That doesn't sound all that brag-worthy. You're just saying that because you've never met first place. Besides, I'm still going to catch you either way. Why are you even out here stealing at a time like this? The God Eaters tournament is going on right now, which means this place is crawling with people all across the multiverse, right? I'm a contestant. Aren't you at least a little worried I might be superpowered, or cyborg, or freaky wizard? It doesn't matter if there's a tournament or a New Year's party going on. Rent is still due just like any other time of the year. And lucky for me, instead of getting caught by any real contestants who could cause real trouble, I ended up with you. Here's a tip. The only people who bring up high school are losers who never had any accomplishments beyond that. Wow. Ow. Hey! The thief's words cut Toffee deep enough that she lost her focus and her footing. The comfortably flat roads of the city had been replaced with the uneven dirt of the residential district. She planted face first in a rather undignified manner. The thief only made it a few feet away before being met by a wall of red. The city guard, the cross guards, sprung forth from hiding and surrounded him instantly, as if they were there all along. With nowhere else to go, the thief dropped to his knees, putting up little resistance. The guards closed in on him and immediately bound his hands behind his back within seconds. A lone guard walked past the circle and towards Toffee, still on the ground. May I help you? The guard asked, offering a hand. Just leave me here a moment. Just leave me here. I need a moment. Toffee let out a muffled sulk, her head still facing down. I overheard your conversation with the thief. Was it true? Which part? The one about me being a contestant, or the one about me being a good-for-nothing no-lifer? Now, putting words in other people's mouths is both rude and unhelpful. It's the truth, though. I should be home right now, but instead I decided to stay in this tournament on a total whim, all because my everyday life is so boring. What will I even do when I'm encountering one of the cyborgs and wizards when I can't even catch some random punk? No amount of luck is going to help me then. You mean you don't even have a wish prepared? Oh, I think I know who this is. The guard's voice raised with a hint of curiosity. Didn't think that far ahead. The guard pulled up Toffee with relative ease and dusted her off. First off, this tournament is not going to be as difficult or dangerous as you think it might be. Even without any magic, anyone can win, and that includes you. You would never have received the invitation otherwise. Second, if you're truly that directionless, maybe this tournament is exactly what you need. A chance to find yourself. Toffee chuckled a little. What, like every rich girl flying to Europe on my mommy's credit card? I can tell just by looking at you that you're smart enough to know that's not what I'm talking about. This tournament will give you the opportunity to meet all sorts of new people and push yourself to overcome obstacles with skills you didn't even know you had. The cross-tournament changes people for the better. I've seen it myself. I guess I have no choice but to take your word for it, miss. Yep, that's what I thought. I'm sticking to this force. I'm committing to it. My name is Shifu, and I'm captain of the guard. Well, damn, I would have dusted myself sooner if I knew I was talking to someone that important. Captain Shifu, would it be alright if one of the guards over there gave me some directions back to the bar I was just at? Not to worry, I'll escort you there myself. Are you sure there's no problem? It's none at all. Toffee and Shifu walked back towards the bar for a moment. Toffee stopped and thought she should mention the old lady the thief had stolen from, but the thought slipped away. Something about Shifu's aura calmed her down. She was sure the guards would handle this situation and make sure the bag was returned to its rightful owner. The guards waited for a few moments until Toffee and Shifu were out of earshot before untying the thief. One of the older ones then patted him on the back. You did pretty good for a rookie. Tell me, kid, what's your name? It's Kuro, the thief replied, taking off the rags concealing his face. I just finished training a couple of days ago. Is something like this common for new recruits? Kuro. In other words, black, huh? Your parents must have had quite the sense of humor giving you that name with hair as white as that. Either way, to answer your question, yes and no to some extent. We go through drills like this all the time. However, we were just told that this was something special involving the tournament. Don't worry too much about it. Just take a break over in the hot springs and then change back into your uniform. You've earned it. I see. Kuro's voice dulled. He was left with more questions than answers, but pushing his commanding officer any further might seem like a bad idea. You know what the definition of insanity is? Tenki asked, rubbing his temples. Doing the same thing over and over while expecting a different result. And that's exactly what we've been going through. Someone shows up with the Magatama, we go through the same song and dance, greeting them. And then they get put through the exact same test, only for Mom to show up and tell them that they failed before taking the Magatama back, just so that we can start the process all over again. I thought dealing with the regular contestants would be bothersome, but we've gone through this loop 6 times now. Even the 2 that actually caught the thief still got sent home. Oh, as if you have any right to complain. Miss X dropped her idle grace. You haven't done anything. I have been the one greeting all the Magatama candidates, explaining the rules of the tournament to them, and then you show up at the last minute and try to convince them to buy you junk in exchange for made-up secrets on how to win. I bet Mom figured out where you were hiding and dropped that toffee girl on your lap just to force you to help out instead of being a mooch. It seems that, despite not having a physical body capable of regular exhaustion, the constant repetition of the day took its toll. Tenki frowned, his posture stiffened up slightly as he was confronted with the consequences of his childlike behavior. You're right, he painfully confessed. From here on out, I'll try to be more with the tournament business going forward. if you can actually manage to keep that promise, I might have to pour you a glass without spitting it, Saki chimed in. Miss X pouted. She couldn't stay mad at her brother. I'm sorry for lashing out. I'm just as confused as you are. Mom said that the Magatama contestant needed to be someone very specific. She's mentioned something about an experiment she was working on, and it required someone with no magic of any kind that might interfere with it. You would think that would make it easy to find someone, but she's very picky about it for some reason. It's all good. Just be more careful when yelling about half-naked women in my lap. It was then that Toffee and Shifu returned. Tenki, Miss X, and Saki all did their best to hide their reaction with varying degrees of success. Lucky for them, Toffee was too tired to notice. Hello, everyone, Shifu chimed. I just stopped by to drop off this lovely lady. You have a fine contestant here. Toffee waved at the three before returning to the drink she had abandoned earlier. She was the only one in the room oblivious to what was going on. She didn't see Shifu's face, right behind her, looking at her with a malevolent smile, the exact kind that a fox would give to its prey. In Shifu's eyes, Toffee really was the perfect contestant, enough stamina to keep pace with a relatively young fit guard, yet shallow enough to be broken by a humble jeer, and just as easily put back together with a few sappy little words of encouragement. A simple-minded, empty vessel for the God Eater to mold her however she pleased. Continued in Chapter 2. My story begins at the end of yours.
Thank you so much for that reading.
You're welcome. I'm glad to have read it. It was a fantastic entry. I really enjoyed a lot of the pacing and the fact that you gave Toffee some time to actually vibe around in the crossroads a little bit.
Yeah.
I am gonna do a quick BRB. I have to do some business and get some water.
Rehydrate, good sir.
Rehydration.
Has arrived, if you so wish.
The backup has arrived. Rock on. Oh, right. Right. Next up, we do have Lord Plague. I did promise that we would do their entry. So they're next. BRB.
Hey, so I just went to get some water and now I'm back. And so, yeah, if there's any criticisms you have, I'd appreciate all of it, no matter how brutal. So, yeah, just let me know if there's anything I could have done better.
It does feel meandering at some points. I did notice that you do tend to repeat the same ideas or concepts. Uh, quite a few times throughout this piece.
That is a problem that I have to like skim through while editing.
Yeah. I think a second pass, or I think another pass in which you went through and just tightened up things here and there would have helped with the length of it. But otherwise, no major outstanding issues, honestly. Which is something.
The humor wasn't too crude.
I think it was pretty straight. You had a goal and that you set out with, and you delivered on it. Just needs a bit more polish, I think, but we are not judging by professional standards. We are judging by personal standards, and it's completely subjective. So, I personally would have liked to see it to see it more concise, but as it is, it's about that solid.
Yeah, I think I might have. I think I might have packed it with like too many words because like I'm afraid of using too few because obviously like like mine is 18 pages, and we've had like a lot that were like around 30. So then it's like, oh, if I don't reach that page limit, it must mean that I don't have enough going on in my story, or I'm not describing things enough.
Well, how many? What was the word count? I have no sense of page count anymore. I only operate by word count.
I need to pull up the Google Doc for it and count. Okay, it's 5,416 words.
Okay.
Ooh.
I clocked in at 4.1K.
Oh,
I think you're fine.
It'll be just a tick longer.
The
Gotta finish with
length. Never worry about how long your story is compared to others. It should be just as long as it's necessary to tell what you want. Because adding too many words will pad it and make some scenes feel like filler, or make some lines feel extraneous.
Because it literally is.
Mm-hmm. My run can be summed up to: lady is having breakfast in a ghost room. She has breakfast 3 times.
In a single
And-
day?
And runs it. No,
Okay.
it's the to time. She calls it breakfast, but honestly, the ghost vendor comes by once a day, so she just calls it breakfast because that's when she eats. But anyway, with that, I set out for my round. I set out to give the reader an idea of her mentality, personality, and where she's coming from. That's it. And so so I left it at 4.1K because that's how long it took for that.
yeah.
It doesn't, when I summarize it, it doesn't seem like much, but what I focus on is is introspection and revealing those 3 things through the narration and observation and dialogue. When you put too much into a story, or when don't feel pressured to add things that you didn't initially intend to. It's one thing if it's like, oh, this is what my opponent can do, or oh, this is my opponent's story. They want to try and integrate it. But especially when writing one character like this, things continued to be thrown at her, and she did feel reactive to the situations, especially more towards the end. I understand where you're going with that. Not necessarily a bad thing, it's something that she can work on. Excuse me while I eat a blueberry. But so it's less something that's a flaw in the current state, and more you can, should, obviously, we're not assuming anything. Sorry, I have an entire bowl of blueberries I have to get through. My mom decided to buy 4 cartons of them.
No worries, no worries.
But you can use it as a foundation for what you write next. And that is the commentary from the comment crowd.
From the peanut gallery.
I guess in this case, I'm the blueberry gallery.
BRB switching computers.
Howdy, gang. I'm back.
Welcome back.
I do have some food in front of me, so I'll be chewing on that a little bit while I give myself a little bit of a break as well. But let me go ahead and pop open.
Could you
Plays.
explain to me which which one you're doing, and
Yes.
of course, feel free to assign me a role or whatever have you for the sake of your poor, poor vocal cords.
My poor, these vocal cords are dying. I need to find Lord Dale. I need to find Dale. It's alright. I'm trying to find it on the wiki right now. And don't apologize for anything. You are doing well just by submitting in this and having put in all of the effort that you have to get this done. Mm-hmm. I get it. Is your name Lord? Sorry, having a hard time finding it. Is your name Lord Plague on the website as well, or is it a different name? Okay. You're one of the written. There we are. Found it. Okay, here we are. Let me mute myself a little bit. Just gonna inhale this rap real quick.
Go for it. Let's see here. If you could be so obliged to smack the link over into the chat.
Link is in the side chat.
Much obliged, thank you very much.
So we're doing like comic auditions now? Like we're reading them?
Looks like we've just gotten to them, yeah.
Alright.
Yep, we're opening up the audition readings a little bit past the written ones now that we've gotten a good chunk of them out of the way.
Ah, okay.
All right, rap has been inhaled. Okay. All right, on Tumblr. And I suppose we'll figure out if anyone wants to join in for a character, since this is a comic. Feel free to. We will be doing this a bit more straightforward. We're trying to avoid some shitposty stuff so that it's more straightforward experience. Yeah. But
I suppose one way we could establish it is how many is anyone else here interested in doing reading?
yes.
I'll volunteer if there's any characters that pick me, so.
Okay, we'll go with us three then.
we could probably do it that we pick them up in the order that characters appear.
Alrighty.
So
I'll,
first,
I'll, yes, I'll start off with the first thing that I see. All right. And starting. Summer League's Audition by Lord Plague and Shibo Siri. My lady, if I may ask, what is that you're looking through that... sorry. My lady, if I may ask, what is it that you're looking through your window?
Will not hurt you.
Ah, I see. How did you come upon it?
I created it. However, if you must know, I suppose the paperwork can wait.
Chirp, 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 chirp. She adjusts her glasses, standing before a ritual most foul, summoning a monster. And arises a creature gangly in nature, excitable, and running around and very happy. It's very cute.
Suppose at first I thought this spell had failed, but it worked out in the end.
Chirp. Ah. In present day. Oh, sorry, Tumblr freaked out on me.
Come in.
Ah, this is the nurse. Another letter for you, Lady Holt.
She opens the letter.
Nodding.
This aura. How did I not detect this before? There be a being kinder than the gods. I only ask if this be a report of success. A tournament? Wish. We get to have a wish if we win. This could help me. Help us. Maybe, just maybe I could.
Wham! Do you want to play this character, Speed?
Hello?
I do not see Speedster. Very well, I shall take over. The gods be damned, my dear! I have not seen you so jovial in moons. Pray tell, have you gotten good news of our knightly friend?
No, but I believe we may have found a solution to.
Huh. Takes it. You really can't be considering joining this tournament, are you?
Why not? The prize appears to be well worth the risk.
Have you finally gone mad, or has your mind been taken over by a fool? Do you not recognize the handiwork of a higher being any longer? You also realize you will be exposing yourself to a foreign realm and powers, yes? You cannot even fight to save your hide. Why do you think it was Elhodan and I doing all the dirty work this whole time?
With all due respect, Voldrin, do not forget to whom you indebted yourself to for the rest of your immortal life.
Why do you think I'm scolding you, child? We lost Elhodan already. I cannot afford to lose you, too.
It will be fine. I have the book, remember?
You did not even complete the book's name, and it cannot be revealed, especially to those who host this tournament.
Then what am I to do?
There is no shame in declining. You have other responsibilities after all.
She looks at the letter. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
You will be torn to shreds out there, you fool! I cannot help you due to your bindings that keep me here.
I was not going to ask you to come!
Then who? Surely you do not mean to go alone, hoping your imps and adequate dagger skills can get you victory. Thud.
You underestimate me. I could do more than that.
Not without rituals. Not yet. And your opponent certainly will not wait for you to prepare. Why go this far for him, when what we had was a partnership and nothing more? It was a shame to have lost such a valuable asset, but he is not worth your life.
I am going, Alderin. She withdraws a dagger into the bell. Keep the manor and everyone safe.
Idiot. I thought I'd taught you better than that. Crash. And the dear creature runs overhead. They step into the light.
What in the world is this?
Who is this? Okay, it's Tanky.
I'll take I'll take on the role just so I can contribute.
All right, go on. You'll be playing Tanky then. This is the voice.
Yes. Well, well, well. Look who washed up ashore.
And there he is, the boy.
By the gods, everything here is so grossly incandescent.
My, aren't you a gloomy one? Welcome to the Crossroads. My name is Tanky, and I will be your tour guide.
My greetings to you then. I am Dale of Household. Pray tell, while I am aware that this land's called Crossroads, where exactly are we?
Out already with the big question already, I see. Well, the answer to it is simple. You see, the crossroads, as we like to call it, it is like a meeting point for an uncountable number of dimensions. The only way to get here is by getting a certain individual brought via Mystic Fox.
Yes, I know what this place is. Anyone reading that letter could. I mean, where in the crossroads am I? And why is there so much sand?
Of course, of course. This is Ume Bay by the Phoenix Coast.
And up there?
That is where the competition you're participating in will take place.
So it seems. Damn, all this heat and light I have to go up those stairs. What part do you play in all this? I ought to learn as much as I can while I'm here.
Well, other than being responsible for this nice weather, right now I work as the field manager for the Cross Coliseum. Well, in any case, now it is my job to show competitors and their assistants to the venue. Now come, little fox, let me show you to the center of the crossroads. The Cross Coliseum.
What did he just call me? Fox? Does he take me for some creature of mischief? I would rather not die of a stroke.
Oh, and if you would care to, keep the bell visible. It marks you as a challenger.
And he shines.
That is the Phoenix Coast, and above that is the Aristocrat District.
I wonder if the nobility here are as bad as those leeches back home.
We're almost there, my little fox. One last stop before we reach the Coliseum.
Ew. I may not be from this land, but you should watch your tone when speaking to me.
Well, instead of telling me to watch my tongue, why don't you watch your back a little?
What?
I see you finally discovered the second mark of the challenger, a ghostly white tail.
Why would you need a second mocking when we already have the tag?
Well, that is not for me to decide. I'm not the one who invited you here. Oh, look. Oh, looks like we've arrived even on our last stop before I leave UB, the business district.
I just have this damn get in the way.
A cacophony of people. A tournament. A ring. They stand there looking. That is the end. Yep, that's the last panel. All right. That was a very good round. I enjoyed a lot of the dialogue that was going on there. You have a very good handle of that.
I'm intrigued for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know the deal about Mr. Magoo with the plague mask.
Yeah. I'm gonna duck out, but yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I hope the rest of you guys have a lot of fun without draining your throats. Good night. See ya.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to call this one here because I do have an opening shift that's going to be coming up.
Oh, okay.
However, I do have Tony's currently set for tomorrow. If we have anyone here that hasn't had their round read, feel free to bring it up, and I'd be happy to put you in the wait list.
Just to let you know, I'm pretty sure you already read my text, what I wrote, but you're free to skip mine.
I will not skip yours. In fact, you're now on the list for tomorrow.
No, no, please skip mine, please. It's probably my clumsiest audition I've made to date.
Too late. You have made yourself stand.
And submitted audition.
You made yourself stand out, Kirby. Make this bed. You made that bread. Now make your bed.
Yeah, you built this bed of nails. Now lie in it.
Oh no.
These rounds were pretty good, actually.
Honestly, if I had the chance, I could just go back and just remake my audition. Considering how much time we've been given until round 1 officially starts, which is just next month, surprisingly.
Fun fact: nothing's stopping you from making epilogue and just continuing off of it if you really.
I mean,
want
intermission.
To.
Yeah,
Not
but
really
also...
an intermission. It's best if you think about it as like a continuation from where you left off, or like a prequel. You don't want to overburden yourself. It's in the fact, like FAQ.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also,
and I just came back from a burnout too.
Oh yeah, I can feel that.
Save that energy for the next thing that you make.
Yeah.
Just keep it in mind going forward. And with that, it's time for me to have dinner. So, I will see you all another time.
Yeah,
thank you again, Chaco, for hosting this.
Yes, thank you all for joining. It's very fun going through all of these.
Yeah. Toodaloo.
Thank you so much for the read through, and have a good night. See ya.
Good night, everybody.
Oh no, Shadow Curries is actually next.